Ladies and gentlemen, we have today on our next podcast of Filmmakers on Filmmakers is Dan Hogg. Dan, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no
So,
problem. It's my pleasure.
so uh, for those that don't know you, just can you explain yourself and what you basically do, please? Introduce yourself.
So my name is Dan Hauk. I am mainly an actor. I went to school for acting for film, TV, and the theater. So I basically started out in that portion of the industry. And then after graduating, I kind of broke out more into filmmaking, started producing a few shorts here and there. I started writing some projects that never saw the light of day because we all have some of those. I got into directing a little bit, but not too much. Still doing some independent acting work here and there. And then one of my best friends from film school kind of sent me a message asking if I wanted to do some kind of small YouTube skits, stuff like that. So I said, sure, I thought it'd be a great idea, kind of get our acting juices flowing, all of that, be creative in our own way. We didn't have to wait for roles to come to us. We could make our own roles. So he sent me over a little snippet of kind of what he wanted to do with these two buddy cops kind of in their apartment, kind of just riffing and stuff like that. And then from there, we kind of took that idea and wrote it into a web series that we have now developed and filmed that's in post-production called Reynolds and Kennedy. And from there, we're kind of just building our own brand now.
Well, that's fantastic. Before I get into the Reynolds and Kennedy stuff, I'm just curious. So, what got you started in the acting in the first place? Where did that passion come from?
I've always had that passion since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably around 7 or 8, I used to go up to my mom and ask her when I could start my acting career. But being a kid from a small town of 5,000 people, it was never really a thing from where I was from. People around me didn't do film. People didn't act. People didn't direct, all that stuff. There's really nowhere to go for it. So being a young child and, going up to my mom and asking her when I could start this or telling her that I wanted to be an actor, I don't think she really knew what to do with the information or where to take me for that. So it never really happened as a child. Throughout public school and high school, I kind of did a few productions, the ones that you're required to do in drama class, all that kind of stuff. But it never really became anything, and I never thought that it would become anything from a kid from a small town. So in high school, I kind of veered away from that, and I started thinking about other things that I would be interested in doing, things that would be a more acceptable career, things like that. And I always just came back to acting. I always just had that passion to do it. It was just something I guess I was born with and that I was meant to do. So I started taking it upon myself around 17, 18, I guess, to try and find my own things to do. I had a boss. I was working for this restaurant, and my boss came up to me and said that his wife was a part of this this kind of theater production in my small town. I'm from a small town called Mount Forest, by the way. It's between Guelph and Owen Sound here in Ontario. And he basically said that they were looking for kind of a guy my age, around 20s, to be this newlywed character. So I thought, you know what, like whatever it is, I'll go for it and see if I still have that passion to act. So I went for it and I got the gig, and that kind of got the ball rolling.
Nice. So that was interesting. So if you don't mind me asking, so when he said that you wanted to become an actor and you were asking your mom or your parents about the acting, and you said that she wasn't sure, was it that she had plans other plans for you, like getting a 9 to 5, or was it just she didn't know like what the options were as far as being an actor in your small town?
Uh, I don't think it was so much that she had plans for me to do a 9 to 5. My parents have kind of always been open to me doing whatever I wanted to do, except being a police officer, which because my dad was a police officer for around 30 years. And they just told me you can do anything, but doing that, there's way too much paperwork and it's too dangerous. So they didn't want me to lead in his footsteps, which is kind of ironic with the show that I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So other than that, yeah, they were kind of just open to me doing whatever I wanted. They just didn't really know how to get me there. I think they didn't know any of the options, being from the area that I was in. They didn't have any options for me to explore. So
But it was good that at least that, even when you got a job and you were working and whatnot, that the opportunity did pop up where like, hey, there just happens to be a theater production and they're looking for someone like you to come and fill in the roles.
right, yeah, yeah, it was just the right place, right time. Funny enough, I actually just went through a breakup. I broke up. Me and my first girlfriend broke up, and she was going to be the one playing my wife, my newlywed wife, in this theater production. So I kind of took that um, as a little kind of learning experience and
Mm-hmm.
a challenge to see if I could separate myself as Dan Hauk and the things that were going on in my life, and see if I can let those fall away and be this character and have this relationship with somebody that I used to be with, I guess. So it was kind of like it was a nice little challenge in itself for my first, I guess, big role, and it ended up going very well.
Yeah. You both were able to just smoothly just continue on with the show and
Yeah,
just
yeah. I
be
think
the
we both,
characters. Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
that we needed to do this as a production and not let personal things come into it. Um,
of course.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay, fantastic. So let's talk about Reynolds and Kennedy. So I think that's fantastic. It's one of the, the fact that it's one of those things where, you try a small thing, just a small idea pops out, not much of it, and then it's like, hey, let's try and grow this. Let's see how far we can go.
yeah,
So you've got a nice little team here because you've got Nate, you've got Shamil, and you've got yourself.
yeah.
So was it Nathan or was it Shamil that suggested the idea to you?
So it was actually Nate. Nate Burbank is my creative partner, actually, and we own our own production company together. But we'll get at that later. So me and him met in film school. He's from a small town, kind of in the area where I'm from as well. So we instantly connected on that. Two, small town boys trying to make dreams come true. We both met at Toronto Film School. We became best friends, acting partners in school, all of that. And yeah, like I said, one day he kind of just shot me this idea of doing small skits in an apartment. And then he had this idea for kind of like a little buddy cop type thing, almost like spoofing on a little bit of Lethal Weapon, if you will. And I took it and I read it and read his notes and I thought it was great. So I said, well, why don't we, kind of explore this and see how many skits we can kind of get going. And then when we had, 5 to 10 skits in the bag, maybe 1 to 2 minutes, we went, well, do we want to do this? Or if we went this far, well, why don't we develop it into something a little bit more? And for us as our first major project, it was kind of, we didn't really know how to turn it into a full-fledged TV show, things being 20 to 30 minutes per episode, all of that. So we started exploring the idea of doing a web series, which you can kind of make your episodes a little bit shorter, keep the attention from the audience a little bit better. And it's just something to kind of dig your heels in without going too far into it, without spending a lot of money, all that kind of stuff. So we took these small skits and we wrote them into 6 episodes between 5 to 10 minutes long. And at the very beginning, it was it was quite episodic, and then we found ourselves with each draft, it kind of every episode started to kind of come together. So there's this underlying storyline throughout the entire season. And we went to school with Shamil McKean, and we've just always loved him as a person. He's a great guy and he's a great actor. So we wrote the role of the captain on our TV show specifically for him. And we pitched it to him, and he was over the moon to work with us. We've worked with him before on small things in film school, and it always came out really well. And we always had a blast doing it. So yeah, that's kind of where it began.
That's fantastic. And I mean, I remember watching the trailer and got a couple giggles out of it because yeah, there's definitely some really, really special and unique things about your show. I mean, I love the fact that Shamil's playing the captain.
Mm.
And to tell the truth, my favorite part of watching that trailer, I can't remember if I mentioned this to you. I think I mentioned this to Shamil. I don't think I mentioned it to you or Nate. But I love the fact when Nate was complaining, or one of you were complaining, and then Shamil was impersonating you guys and be like, "This is what you sound," and he starts impersonating you guys.
Yeah.
So I said,
yeah.
Because I said to him, you know, you can juggling around with it. Because I said to him, like, I thought it would be hilarious. And just my perspective was the fact that if you've got you two guys doing your own thing, and maybe Nate's character is complaining, or both of you complain, or doing one thing or another, and then for comic relief, Shamil being from having that Middle Eastern kind of accent and background would just be impersonating you guys. It's like, this is what the white boys sound like. You guys sound like a bunch of, whiny little girls or whatnot, and just that becomes like his routine, his schmick.
Right, and that is that's actually kind of a lot of what we were going for in that essence. I mean, when you watch the show, it'll kind of come together a little bit more. But he's kind of just like, kind of like your typical captain, no nonsense type guy, just always berating these guys of doing a terrible job, because they do a terrible job, but at the end of the day, they can still get their jobs done somewhat efficiently. And yeah, he's just like, he doesn't take any shit from them, and they definitely serve him a lot of grief throughout the entire season. So
nice. So tell me a little bit more about, so how do the skits usually go? Because I saw on the poster that it's your Toronto Cop. So do you guys go out and solve a mystery, or are you guys keeping it within an office, or how do you usually plan that?
So we created the show. I think there's a little unknown character within the whole thing that is Toronto. We wanted it very Toronto based. We wanted it to be Canadian based. We wanted to kind of be proud of the fact that we are Canadians and we are shooting in Toronto. Because for a lot of TV and movies that shoot here, they use our city as kind of covers for New York or places in US. And there's never really a Toronto-based thing, you know what I mean? So we wanted to kind of take that and run with that. So I think it's a little bit of both. There's not a lot of exterior scenes just because that was a lot more costly to shoot. So most things are interior. Within the precinct, the captain's office, interrogation rooms, underground parking garages, things like that. And we did that again because just of cost. And I'm actually going to go into that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
That, we had ideas to crowdfund this at first, because most independent projects, people usually go through crowdfunding. But you ask people for money so many times and they can only give you so much. And we kind of just wanted to see what we could do on our own, fully do it on our own dime, on our own skill set, and see what comes of it, and then build it from there. So everything was done out of pocket. Nate and I personally financed the entire thing. And with that, we kind of had to do a little bit of rewrites with some outdoor things with us, portraying police officers and carrying weapons and wearing badges. To have, an actual police officer on set and to have all the permits and stuff like that, it would have cost much more than what our budget was. So we kind of rewrote the show and the scenes that needed those exteriors into places that we could shoot for cheaper, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Well, I mean, you're definitely on the right ball game there where, because, yeah, I completely understand what you're talking about with the crowdfund. Have you considered putting something like this on Patreon?
We've never considered Patreon as of yet. We're still kind of trying to decide what we want to do with the future, because this is something that isn't just a first season thing. We have a story arc and ideas written out for about 5 seasons. So it's one of those things that we might try crowdfunding, we might try Patreon, we might try CMF, Canadian Media Fund, things like that, just to kind of fund our next few seasons, because we want to go a little bit bigger and a little bit more out there and use exterior scenes and have a little bit more action and stuff like that. But as of right now, we're still kind of trying to kick around the idea of what would be more beneficial for us. Yeah.
Of course. So, when you look at the show, so is it primarily comedy? Like, is it something, let's say, like Big Bang Theory and that sort of comedy style, or are you looking at more of like drama action with comedy?
Very different from the Big Bang. It's very comedic. There's hardly any drama in it. But our comedy is definitely more on the raunchy side, more, South Park and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, with the speed of like Letterkenny and stuff like that.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean in terms of like the style of your writing. I meant more of the show being produced. So, like, how a typical most typical comedy, so The Cosby Show, Big Bang Theory, I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head. Most of these shows, they take place kind of like on a set in front of an audience, or at least in that type of setting. So it's not like they're going from one location to another location to another location to another location. It's basically one room, besides another room, besides another room, besides another room, besides another room. So they can quickly go here, do a couple things, go here, do a couple things, jump here, go a couple things, or even go through one door and into the next room. Right, and there's no kind of going around. It's all facing one way. You know what I mean?
No, that's not the sense whatsoever. It is,
okay.
Yeah, we do move locations. We do move shot angles, stuff like that. So yeah, it's not supposed to be portrayed as kind of more sitcom, as it is to be on location, actual in the environment shoots.
Cool. And then is it just the three of you kind of shooting, or do you have other crew with you?
So our crew was very, very small for the beginning. Again, we hardly had no budget for this. So we kind of just, got people on, good grace, I guess, wanting to help us out. So it was Nate and I. Nate and I are both the writers, producers, directors, actors, and I took on editing as well for it. And other than that, we had a cinematographer, Brennan Wisdom James. She did an amazing job. Amanda Conte was our makeup kind of first AD person. And we had 2 sound guys on it, Paul Vero and Adam Ive. And other than that, there wasn't too much other crew. We kind of just, took every job that we could and kind of went with it to keep it small and cost efficient. And the show itself, the writing in the show, low budget works better for the first season, because the story behind the show is that there's this full-fledged Toronto precinct with all these old-timer detectives and everything like that once upon a time. And the the old captain was having a retirement party, and it got a little too out of hand, and it ended up getting shut down by another precinct. And all these old timers kind of lost their jobs, either went to prison or fired from this party. So the authorities that be needed to fill these positions, so they kind of got these two young Toronto, uniform cops off the street and promoted them to lead detective, even though they have no idea what they're doing. And same with the captain, Shamil's character. They kind of just gave it to the person that thought had the most experience, I guess. But everybody on the show, character-wise, doesn't really know exactly what they're doing. And this precinct has no budget either, right? Because of all the changes and everything like that. So they're kind of working off bare minimums at this point. So it's kind of like a little riff on the production itself, not really having a budget. So you see in the actual show, it's kind of filmed to have no budget. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, it still seems all that more exciting because, it's funny because whenever I've spoken to like other filmmakers in my production, it's all about, we want to bring in all the cameras, all the equipment, make it look really, really nice, have the effects, have the music, have all this stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, if you just have a great story and you got some good performances, I mean, that'll deliver. So, I mean, yeah, you may have a low budget and you may even tease that low budget kind of style, but I mean, it sounds like you guys got a fantastic concept. I saw the trailer. I loved it. I definitely think that you guys got something really, really special, and I'd love to see more of it. So
yeah, and you will come very soon here.
Oh, do we have a date yet? A release date?
We do have a release date, and this is the first time we're going to announce it. Is to you. Our release date for the first episode, we're going to be running weekly episodes, and the first one will be released on May 15th. So that is about roughly 3 weeks from today. Will be the first episode out.
Nice. Do you hear that, guys? So, do you have a YouTube channel for that?
We do, yeah. Yeah, it's just Reynolds and Kennedy. If you Google or YouTube Reynolds and Kennedy, the trailer will come up. You can go to our page. You can subscribe. You'll get weekly notifications, alerts on your phones that a new episode will be out. And you can keep all up to date on that. We have Instagram at Reynolds and Kennedy. We're on Facebook. We're about to launch our website, so all of the episodes will be on there as they come out too. So
fantastic. Yeah. And by the way, we're going to link all those links down in the description, guys, so you guys can check out the channel, Instagram, Facebook, and all that.
Great, yeah.
So are you just releasing the 6, or is it just 6 now and then you're going to try and make more to be released afterwards?
So right now we just have the 6 for season 1.
Cool.
They will be released over a month and a half time period. And that'll be the first season that's done, that's out. And then we will be getting to go into pre-production of the next season.
Nice. Way to go.
Thank you. Yeah.
You said that you and Nate started a production company, if that's right?
That's correct, yeah.
So how did that get started, and where was the inspiration for that?
So that inspiration came simply from creating Reynolds and Kennedy and wanting kind of a platform or a name to release it under, as well as we wanted to make it as official as possible with the resources that we had. So we figured that creating a production company would have some sort of legitimacy to release this under. So we created our production name. We copywrote our scripts. So we are the legal owners of these scripts. In case anything happened, nobody could come in and take our stuff and release it themselves or shoot it themselves. So we wanted to try and make this as official as possible. So that's kind of where we came from on the production company.
Nice. So do you have it? Are you looking into other projects outside of Reynolds and Kennedy, or is it primarily that's for the time being?
Primarily, it's Reynolds and Kennedy right now. We have a previous short film that we've shot before Reynolds and Kennedy that will be coming out probably after Reynolds and Kennedy, just because this show is our main priority right now. We're still in post-production of this other short. So for the main part, those are our two projects right now, but we do have some ideas, and further along in our career, we would like to create some other short films, maybe get into some feature films and stuff like that. Through a production company is named Bag Boys Productions, by the way. So there will be a website for that, hopefully, as well, where you can access all of our content and not just Reynolds and Kennedy. But yeah, for the time being, it's just the two.
Nice, way to go. Well, I hope everything goes well, and I can't wait to check out the series.
Yeah, thank you.
And something else I'm quite curious about is one of your previous short films that you were hugely involved in, and I saw all over your Facebook, was Hot Dogs and Buns.
Dogs and Buns, yeah.
Dogs and Buns, beg your pardon.
Dogs and Buns. That was a film created by Matt Klopot that he had posted a casting on through Mandy Actors, which is where I go for a lot of my roles. A lot of actors go for their roles. And he kind of put that out there, and I was just on there searching through some castings one day, and it popped up, and I read it, and I thought it was an amazing idea. It's the type of humor that I like. So I was super interested in it already. So I sent out to him a self-tape, and I just told him my excitement for it. And he actually had already cast the character of Kevin, which is the character that I played previously. And that actor went union, so he had to drop out. So he recasted this character. And at that point, that's when I saw the casting. So I reached out to him. He brought me in for an actual on-camera audition. We clicked right away. I got the role from that. And it was a very, very great experience. It's one of those films that I'll hold dear probably until the end of my life. It's a great experience. He's become a great friend for me. So yeah, and we plan to collaborate in the future together as well.
Nice. So was this a short film?
This was a short film. Yeah, this was I think it came out to be around 10 minutes long, I believe. And the premise of it is two best friends that stumble on the world's dumbest conspiracy, being that they don't understand why hot dogs come in 12 packs and hot dog buns come in 8. They just can't figure it out. So they go on this massive journey to go figure out the reason why.
That's awesome.
And it's a great concept. Like, just it was original. It hadn't been done before, and and it was just something that I wanted to explore.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, is it doing its festival run, or has it been released to the public?
So we shot that back in 2015, the end of 2015. So we submitted to a few festivals. We were up for a Canadian Comedy Award in 2016. We were semi-finalists for that in the top 5 positions, and unfortunately we lost out. But the experience of that was amazing, and having that recognition of being nominated for a Canadian Comedy Award was super exciting for us. Especially, that was his first film that he did, and he's an amazing filmmaker, and he just knew exactly what he wanted, and his vision came to life. So yeah, unfortunately we lost out on that. We tried for a few more festivals. It didn't really go very far in the festival aspect. So he's kind of done with it all now. And so that lives on Funny or Die now. So if you go on Funny or Die, you can find it on there. Or you can message me on Instagram, anything like that. I can throw links out if anybody's interested to see it. But yeah, as far as that goes, it's for free on there now.
Sorry, when you say link, are you talking about, is it a link to a website, or a link to a YouTube video?
To funnyordie.com, like the actual link to the film on Funny or Die. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure if you just go to funnyordie.com and search dogs and buns, you can find it that way. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll also link that in the description below, guys, in case any of you want to check that out. So you told me about how you got started in the sense where you got into the theater production and whatnot. So, and then you went to Toronto Film School. Why did you choose TFS?
So the way that it worked was the restaurant I worked for, the kind of my boss from there kind of got me into that first project that I mentioned. He had another restaurant in a similar sized town called Harriston, Ontario. And his other restaurant is Harry Stone's Pizza Burger. So I went over there and started working in the kitchen over there and became a bartender. And there I met a guy named Chad Snyder, or I guess he goes by Chad Taylor now, which has a lot to do with Toronto Film School. He's now a teacher there. But I met him at the bar, and he was just about to go off to Toronto Film School. And having the fire kind of reignited under me to pursue acting, he had recommended that to me, or just said that that's where he was going. He thought it was a great school. I didn't really think much of it after that until about a year later. He came back and he filmed his final project of Toronto Film School in Harriston, and a part of it at this bar. So he contacted me knowing that I was interested in acting and asked me if I wanted to be an extra in his short film. And of course I said sure. I thought it would be great. I had never done film acting before. So that was technically my first project through him, a film called The Done Deal based off of his life. So I went, I did that. I enjoyed the experience. It was great. I asked him about Toronto Film School a little bit more, and he had nothing but good things to say about it. So I started thinking a little bit more into that school. Kind of did a half application because I was still kind of unsure of what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. And a couple of weeks later, they gave me a call and they said, "Hey, we noticed that you've done a half application, and we're just wondering if you want to pursue this." So I thought, you know what, might as well. It seems like a great school. It's not too far away from my hometown. And, you know, he had nothing but good things to say about it. So I kind of went in for an audition, did my audition for them. Got a call back that same day saying that I had been accepted. So a few months after that, I moved down to Toronto and started my schooling at Toronto Film School.
Nice, way to go. It's always interesting whenever I hear about these connections and these relationships. I really do lead from one thing to another. It really is a connections-based industry.
Right, absolutely.
Now, did you and Chad work together on other projects after that?
Oh, a few things here or there. More so at the end of my time in Toronto Film School, towards my graduation, he started becoming a producer for other short films, stuff like that. He had watched my progress throughout film school and saw how dedicated I was to my craft and everything. So anytime he kind of needed somebody to come in, either as an extra or somebody that had dropped a role, or if he ever thought a role was good for me, he kind of sends it my way. So he's definitely kept up with me and sent me some stuff since then. Nothing major. He produced a short film called Arkham's Journal, which was based on kind of like a Batman type fan film. So I played just kind of like an extra assassin in that. Nothing too major. And then other than that, it's just been some small like comedy shorts that I did with him, but nothing major, no.
Okay, so is that kind of like your main field that you're trying to break into, is more of a comedy?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I've done both comedy and drama, a little bit of action here and there. but I'm not trying to break into one genre. I want to be as versatile as I can and take on just different genres. Actually, at the moment, I'm in pre-production of my third feature film called Pulk, and we shoot that at the end of May. That's very, very dramatic and emotional. So that compared to things like Reynolds and Kennedy, where it's strictly comedy, it's like an entire 180. So yeah, I try and do as many different things as I can.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that's really, really fantastic. So, along your acting journey, has there been any kind of really, really big, noticeable lessons that you kind of learned and were able to apply to your craft?
Yeah, for sure. Some of them being, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter about how talented you are and more about how much work you want to put into a project. I've even found that as a filmmaker that, you know, people don't have to be Leonardo DiCaprio for me to hire them. You know, it's more about the passion and the hard work that goes into it, more than skill set. Skill is there, but I want somebody that's going to want to be there and want to put their everything into something, right? So I kind of I take that lesson for myself as an actor, that whenever I get a project, I put everything I have into it, because you can only get back as much as you put in. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I guess another lesson is, which I've been learning a lot more lately, is not to be afraid to fail. Um,
Mm,
Failing, I'm a lot of other actors say this too, but failing is just a learning curve to do better the next time, right? And you got to fail a lot of times to make something good, or to continue your passion and get better.
absolutely. And so, if you don't mind me asking, so when you say failure, so what do you mean by failure? What does failure look like for an actor?
Uh, Speaking from my own experiences, not not seeing full potential in a character, I guess, or in the way that um, you act in a film. I mean, I've done things where I didn't prepare enough for a role, being when if the film even comes out, if it makes it to post production and it's completed and it's shown, where a lot of films never get there. I think failure for me is just almost letting myself down when I know that I could have done better. You know, um,
So it's more of that persistence that, like, yeah, listen, there might have been this one incident that happened, but I can't let it get to me. Just make tomorrow a better day or the next minute a better moment.
right? Like, especially for an actor, we always overthink things as well. We always think we are somewhat failing when we're not. Even if it comes down to you go to an audition and you didn't get it, you feel like you failed a little bit. But you have to realize, especially as an actor, that 3/4 of the time you're never going to hear anything back from auditions. You almost have to go out, you do your job, and you forget about it. So sometimes it's not failing, but it's the thought of you failed, but you really haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's fine. There was a video that was shared by Bryan Cranston, and I found it sometime, I think a year ago. So, and Bryan Cranston was talking about auditions. Have you ever seen that video?
I believe, yeah, yeah. I'm a huge fan of Bryan Cranston, and he's definitely somebody that I look up to through acting. I just, that's one guy that's never really given up through his entire career, even if it's taken him 30 years to break through. You know what I mean? He does it because
Mm-hmm.
he's passionate about it.
For sure. And for those of you that are probably not sure what we're talking about, so Bryan Cranston released a video where he was talking about auditioning, what that means for actors. And basically, the concept was that a lot, as Dan just mentioned, actors sometimes can get really emotional when they don't get a part and they feel like they're losing a job. But he goes into saying like, look, guys, you never had that job in the first place. Okay, so go into an audition with a grain of salt. You may or may not get it. If you get it, fantastic. If you don't get it, there wasn't anything that you lost in the first place. Just move on and do the next thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. You do it, you forget about it. And if you get it, great. But if not, exactly, on to the next thing for sure.
And I mean, I bring that up because I find that so powerful because I find that I think that concept can pretty much apply to anywhere in life. You know, I mean, I don't know if you know this about me. So right now I run a videography company, and so I'm a videographer.
Right. Okay.
And so, and I mean, in both the filmmaking when I was in school as well as right now as a videographer, you know, I've had several people come up to me and be like, hey, do this free thing. It'll be good exposure. It's this big opportunity here and blah, 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 blah. Some of them I took up on it. Some of them I didn't. But some people, they just said no. Some people, they brought me on to do something for free and then they just let me go. And I just remember feeling very devastated because like, oh, did I just lose or whatnot? But it's also remembering that, like, listen, life goes back to the way it was before you even spoke there. Or if someone was trying to pressure me into doing something for free or go way out of my way to do something, and I dig my heels into the ground, I say no, and then they'll say no, of course, and move on. I never had that job in the first place. Nothing changed in life from having that conversation, regardless of how it would go. Well, I mean, if I said yes, I'd be really busy and not getting paid for it. But it's that understanding that, like, listen, the worst thing is someone's going to say is really they're going to say no, but it doesn't affect your life. You just move
Right.
on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it takes a long time, I think, to kind of realize that and to know that that's the way that it happens. Because I'm sure a lot of people that haven't realized that kind of just give up, right? They always think that it's either their fault or it's in their hands, or hearing no is the end of everything, so they give up. But you kind of just have to move past that and do it for you, and know that something else will come.
For sure. Do you also take any extra programs or master classes, or is there anyone that you like listening to for more acting advice?
I haven't really been doing any more workshops or acting
Okay.
classes or anything like that. Sometimes I think maybe I should. But my classes for me is being on set, and whether it's in front of the camera or behind the camera, you're always learning when you're on set. And even if it's the small minimal things that you're doing for no pay or that are probably never going to see the light of day, you're still there and you're still learning from somebody, and perfecting your craft in that. I read a lot of autobiographies on actors and just seeing kind of what they went through. Um, I'm the type of person that I think I had a problem in the past with reading somebody's story and seeing how they got to a point in their career and thinking that, oh, maybe I need to do what they did because they got successful off of what they did. But then I learned to kind of separate again myself from them and go, okay, great, that worked for them, but I need to find my own journey. I need to find what works for me best. And it's great to take little pieces from what other people did and see if it applies to you, and kind of try some stuff out. But at the end of the day, I guess you just gotta be there for yourself and kind of figure out what works for you and be tough on yourself. uh yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Steal ideas, or I shouldn't say steal, copy ideas off everyone else, but then apply it and mold it to make it your own.
Yeah, just I don't know if it's really copy ideas off them, but definitely just see if that works for you, or if you feel the same way. And just kind of mold your own future. It doesn't necessarily have to follow anybody else's, right? So
Hmm. So on that topic of biographies, are there any kind of actor stories that you think that if there was an aspiring actor that was listening to this interview right now, any recommendations of any resources or any actors that they should be looking into, studying, checking out the bios, and to get some inspiration and advice from?
Well, I previously read Bryan Cranston's book, Life in Parts. I was looking forward to it since I heard that it came out, and it was tremendous because, you know, you read that, and if anybody knows anything on Bryan Cranston, like I said before, it took him a long time, like into his 40s, until he got Malcolm in the Middle to really kind of break out. But he'd always had that passion, and, you know, he kind of stuck through it and just kept on working, even if it was small gigs, anything to get him by. And just, I really like his outlook on things. And I read something that he had said at one point, and it was that he didn't care about being insanely famous or very wealthy. He just wanted to make a comfortable living at doing what he loves to do. And I've always taken that and cherished that, and kind of looked at that myself and put that into perspective myself. And I kind of like to go that route as well. If I can pay my bills and have a comfortable living at acting and doing what I love to do, that's making it for me. I don't need to be the biggest star in the world, or I don't need to be the most paid or anything like that. It's more about the passion and not about the other things that come with it, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So he was one. Jay Leno has a great autobiography out. Reading that, I've always been a big fan of his. But he used to work, you know, 300 plus shows a year. He was working all the time. He would drive 8 hours to go perform in front of 5 people in a living room and not get paid for it. It's just, he was the type of guy that, you know, would just work as much as possible, get as much experience as possible, because even like I said before, no matter who you're performing for or where you are, if you're performing your craft, then you're learning, right? So that one really attached to me. My mother actually recommended, she's been a huge fan of Young and the Restless for about 35 years, since it's pretty much been going. And Eric Braeden, who plays Victor Newman, one of the longest running characters on that show, he just put out a book last year, and she recommended that to me because she's such a fan of the show and I'm an actor. So she thought that, you know, maybe I'll make the connection between the two. And I was kind of, you know, apprehensive of it at the beginning. I didn't really know if I wanted to go in for it. And I read it and I finished it in about a week and a half. It was one of the most inspiring stories that I've heard. Like, he, you know, that's another guy that didn't take no for an answer, and kind of, and just kind of made it happen. He never really wanted to be an actor in the first place either. He kind of fell into it, but after he fell into it, he looked at it as, you know, he wanted to do something that mattered. And one of the lines he said was, being on a show like Young and the Restless, where people are so attached to it for so many years, he realized that entertainment is something that matters. It gives people joy, and you know, it takes them out of their everyday life, whether it's good or bad, or it just takes them away to a better place, and they can sympathize with, you know, other people that, you know, that might not be in their everyday life, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I could probably go on and on and on. I've looked into a lot of people, but those are the big 3 that come to mind right now. And yeah, it's just, you know, those are the little pieces I kind of take from them and try and mold into my my career.
Fantastic. And by the way, guys, we're also going to link those books down in the description so you can find them and check those out as well. By the way, use the hashtag entertainment matters, because I think it does.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
So that's fantastic. So on a final note, I'm sorry, I'm loving this inspiration and advice and really, really great resources. out of curiosity, if you were to go back to, let's say, your 16-year-old self, or if you were to talk to another 16-year-old that were in the position that you are, came from a very small town, aspiring to be an actor, what would be some great startup advice for that person? I know we went into some great other advice, but I'm just wondering, what would you say to a 16-year-old specifically?
Just that, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, or what you think other people think of you. Whatever you feel like you need to do in your life, just find a way to do it, even if it's small scale. Just try at least, never have that thought of what if I would have done that? What if I would have done this? Go out and do it. If it doesn't work out, then you know. But if you never try, then you're never going to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just do what you feel is right for you, and don't let anybody else step in the way of that.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it.